In the ancient monasteries of Egypt, the stone floors have grooves worn into them, not from water, not from erosion, from prostration. Palladius of Galatia wrote in the 5th century, "So many were their prostrations that they wore grooves in the stone floors." Tertullian, writing around 200 AD in On Prayer, stated, "Who would hesitate every day to prostrate himself before God, at least in the first prayer with which we enter on the daylight? At fasts, moreover, and stations, no prayer should be made without kneeling and the remaining customary marks of humility." The pilgrim Egeria, a nun who visited Jerusalem in the 4th century, recorded what she witnessed in the liturgy. She said, "When the bishop gives the signal, all the people fall to the ground, beating their foreheads in supplication." Saint Jerome, writing about the ascetics in Palestine, said, "They spend the nights in vigil and the day in prostrations, rising and falling again in prayer until their limbs tremble." Saint John Cassian, who lived among the Egyptian monks, described their practice. When they have finished reciting the Psalms, they do not prostrate themselves in a hurry. They stand for a while to raise a short prayer, then they prostrate themselves in awe and great devotion. The Desert Fathers used prostration as a way to weaken the flesh further, especially during fasting periods, accompanied by prayer in order to ward off the temptations. Abba Macarius taught, "Compel yourself to kneel down before God, for this invigorates the spirit of prayer." Persistence in offering, bows every now and then, will give the vigilant worshiper the ideal atmosphere for worshiping. A love for continual prostration before God during prayer is an indication that the soul has died to the world and has realized the mystery of the new life. James, known as the brother of Jesus and the leader of the Jerusalem church, had knees described by Hegesippus in the 2nd century. He used to be found kneeling on his knees, begging forgiveness for the people, so that the skin of his knees became horny like that of a camel's by reason of his constantly bending the knee in adoration to God. They called him Old Camel Knees. In Gethsemane, Matthew 26, 39 records, he fell on his face and prayed. Mark writes, fell on the ground and prayed. The prophet Daniel, thrice daily knelt upon his knees and prayed and gave thanks before his God. Daniel 6:10, Moses and Aaron besought God, having fallen on their faces. Numbers 16:22. King David wrote in the Psalms, "Bow down to the Lord in his holy court." Psalm 28:2. "I shall bow down toward thy holy temple in fear of thee." Psalm 5:8. "O come, let us worship and fall down before him." Psalm 94:6. St. John Chrysostom, Homily on the Paralytic, approach God with prostrations and tears, for by these things the fire of sin is quenched. In his homily on Penitence, he wrote, "Fall down before him, prostrate yourself, for nothing so moves God as the humble posture of the body when the soul also is humbled." In Sermon 19, "Let a man fall down in humility that God may raise him up." St. Basil the Great wrote in Canon 91, "During each kneeling and standing up again, we are in fact showing by our actions that it was through sin that we fell to earth, and that through the kindness of the one who created us, we have been called back to heaven." St. Gregory of Nyssa, on prayer. "We bend the knee to show that through sin we fell, and by lifting ourselves again, we signify the mercy that raises us." St. Cyril of Jerusalem, teaching catechumens, stated, "While the body is bent forward and the soul is inwardly humbled, the physical posture imitates the inner disposition." Evagrius Ponticus wrote in his chapters on prayer, "The body's posture in prayer, standing, kneeling, or prostration, should correspond to the state of the soul." The Apostolic Tradition, around 215 AD, attributed to Hippolytus of Rome, gives instructions for newly baptized Christians. Let them pray bending the knee for the first time. And Allah knows and acknowledges this. The Quran, in Surah Al-Imran 3:113-114, states, "They are not all the same. Among the people of the Scripture is a community standing in obedience, reciting the verses of Allah during periods of the night and prostrating in prayer. They believe in Allah and the Last Day, and they enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong and hasten to good deeds, and those are among the righteous." The Quran, which is called the Reminder, so often in its pages, explains how this universal ritual of soul prayer was known and then forgotten. Quran 19:58-59. Those were the ones upon whom Allah bestowed favor from among the prophets of the descendants of Adam, and of those we carried in the ship with Noah, and of the descendants of Abraham and Israel, and of those whom we guided and chose. When the verses of the Most Merciful were recited to them, they fell in prostration and weeping. But there came after them successors who neglected prayer and pursued desires, so they are going to meet evil. Stone floors with grooves, knees hardened like horn, faces pressed to earth, bodies rising and falling through the night until limbs tremble. This is what Islam preserved. The act of grace that wore grooves in stone, that hardened knees like horn, the way the prophets prayed, the way Jesus prayed, the way the righteous have always prayed, the way the soul prays. How do you pray?